Alright, what's going on, y'all? So, I'm Christian Salvi. I'm a cadet at the TMCC Texan Corpus Christi Islander Battalion, and I'll be going over the OML and Accessions process from my point of view as a cadet that's currently going through it. So, I'm a senior or MS4, and I'm currently going through this process right now. I'm set to graduate in December of 20, so I'm a fall graduate compared to most people that graduate in the spring. But the purpose of this video is to kind of go over everything from my point of view rather than what cadre, what briefs you've been told. So from my point of view and from what I've looked at, referencing the USAC Circular 601-20-1, that's what I'm using to kind of go over this and match it up with what I've been seeing and how my process has been. So if you look on the right, there's going to be the agenda. Your brigade will ensure that Cadet Command Information Management Module, so the CCIMM, accessions data is reviewed, verified, validated, and submitted by published suspense dates. So when you're submitting files up, your brigade is going to be the one that's going to verify those and validate those things and ensure that things are squared away. So if they kind of screw that up, you're shit out of luck because they're the last people that see it before Cadet Command sees it and before they put everybody into their ranking. Then you're going to have your Professor of Military Science at your ROTC program, so that'll be a Major Lieutenant Colonel, and they're responsible for basically being on top of the cadet and ensuring that the cadet does what he or she needs to do to assess. So then you have the HRA. So your HRA, there's an HRA at every program, or at least there should be. If not, then it's probably a designated cadre member. But your HRA will be responsible for having daily operational working knowledge of the accessions process, regulations and policies relating to CCIMM, data verification, entry, and accuracy. So what that basically means is that person is going to be your right-hand man or gal when you are entering your data such as like tab, any files or documents, your medical documents, whether you had to do an interview for like cyber or for like EOD branching, or if you have to take a SIF test for aviation. So the HRA is going to be one that's going to be helping you out closer than the PMS will. And then you have finally yourself as the cadet. So cadets are responsible for timely submission and all required data to include verifying the accuracy of all personnel data and preferences entered in CCIMM. So basically, they're going to tell you what you need to do. They're going to give you a checklist of what you need to do, and it's up to you to do those things. So failure of a cadet to ensure files and OML is on the cadet. So at any time, if you submit something and it's wrong, or there's an error, or you don't submit something, or if it's late, or anything like that, it's ultimately on you. So it'll be on you as a cadet whether you kind of get screwed over or not. Then we'll have your fiscal year 20 zones. So if you're in a FY20, these are going to be kind of your ranges. So if you're graduating anytime after October 19th, September 20th, that'll be your zone. However, advanced camp commissionees were part of FY19 due to increase in mission for FY19. In my case, I graduate in December of 20, so I'm going to be an FY20 based on this same criteria as FY19. So advanced camp commissionees are part of them, in addition to the people graduating in December. So there's 2 or 3 guys that graduated from my school in December, and they're part of fiscal year 19. So things can kind of buffer and move and switch up. It just depends on what's been pushed out. And since the mission set required more people, more cadets to commission for whatever reason, they got pushed to this to that fiscal year, pushed back into fiscal year 19. So the OML is an outcome metrics list. However, some people refer to it as the order of merit list. Basically used to assess and select component and branch. So whether you go active, National Guard, or Reserve. However, if you choose to go National Guard or Reserve, if you put either one of those as your first choice, then you're going to get that. Unless there's a need. So for example, there's a girl in here that was nursing who put National Guard because she wanted to stay in San Antonio, stay home. But then they moved her to active duty because the Army is in need for nurses. Your aviation and cyber requirements, specific requirements. Different branches require you to do more things. So for me, for example, I'm trying to go aviation. So I had to take a SIF test. I had to do a flight physical. For cyber, you have to do like an interview, and they basically need you to be a computer science major. And like I said, nurses, dentists, and veterinarians and other medical corps or medical department specialties, then you're gonna have more requirements, basically just your degree or your major. Finally, you're gonna have ed delay, so not going to BOLC yet, and you're continuing your education, so you're going to get your graduates. For me, for example, I'm a physical therapy major, or pre-physical therapy major, so if I wanted to go to physical therapy school right after I graduate my bachelor's, then I'll put in an ed delay packet. And it's kind of the same sort of thing where you're competing because they're only gonna give certain spots to certain people. So, I mean, if I have a 2.5 GPA and, you know, I'm just shit, then I'm probably not gonna get it, let alone I'm probably not gonna get into any program. But for ed delay, you need to have files from the school program submitted to CCIMM. So you need to have your admins submitted, so you apply to go to the school and then you get admitted, so you have to, then you're gonna have requests to change. Let's say I wanted to get branched infantry, but I got branched AG or something, right? You can take it to the board and you can go through the process of getting that switched. In the case that I have here, if you want to go active duty, so the CG, the Commanding General of Cadet Command, John Evans, as of right now, he's the one that's going to be seeing all those files and all those paperwork saying that you want to switch. So he's going to see all however many cadets that want to go active duty or switch their branch, and it's kind of up to him whether he approves or not. So you may request if there is an admin error or if it benefits the Army. So if there has been an error in your packet, in your sessions packet, then you may be able to switch. I haven't heard of many people doing that or heard of much success from requesting a change at all. If you have GRFD, you cannot request a change to active. So GRFD, guaranteed reserve. If you contracted GRFD, then it's basically saying that when you commission, you're going to be going into the reserves or National Guard. So if you do that and if you contract with that, then you cannot request a change to active duty. However, there are exceptions for health professional scholarship program, if you're in the financial assistance program, if you're in the uniform services, University of the Health Services, the early commissioning program, cadets, or if you're a military junior college, but you have to go through Secretary of Army in accordance with Title 10 if you're in a military junior college. I'm not in one of those, so it wouldn't even apply to me, and I'm not GRFD, so it doesn't apply to me. If you want to go to active duty, and if you're a GRFD, you know, you're gonna have to wait until your contract, or if there's an opening to where you can transfer from Reserve and National Guard to active duty. Next, we're gonna have BOLC B. So BOLC B is going to be your basic officer leadership course after ROTC once you commission. So technically, BOLC A is ROTC, BOLC B is your branch-specific BOLC, so whether you go infantry, armor, AG, whatever it is. But for that, a lot of people don't know when or how they're gonna get notified of that. But what's gonna happen is Brigade is gonna get notified, and then they're gonna tell the ROTC program for permanent changes of stations, so your PCS. So upon commissioning, your ROTC program is gonna get that information from Brigade, and then they'll pass it down to you. When you're in BOLC B, you cannot enroll in any graduate programs. If you're injured, you may remain at the university location. So if you get injured for some reason, you may be put kind of in the back as far as going to BOLC B. Next is Gold Bar recruiting program. So this is something that I'm trying to do personally. So what this is it essentially speeds up going to BOLC. So especially if you're going Reserve and National Guard, you may end up having to wait a longer time to go to BOLC. So I've heard of stories where people have to wait a year to go to BOLC, and that sucks because that's a year where, you know, you're gonna have to get a job and find means to pay for things. All it is you're helping out your university, you're helping out your ROTC program and recruit, so you're getting active duty pay, you're getting all your benefits. Because of that, the Army wants to speed you up and get you getting to BOLC and then going to your unit versus just recruiting and kind of getting paid to do almost nothing. So it's a good option if you want to get to BOLC faster. So people want to know about their CAT card. So when you commission, you know, when you contract, you're going to get a CAT card, and it may say Cadet, it may say E5 because our pay grades are E5, so say Sergeant on there. But you're not going to get your Second Lieutenant CAT card until you report to BOLC B. So when you're going through all of that process of in-processing and all those things, that's when you're going to get your new CAT card. Now you have your Accessions Suspense Timeline, so I'm just going to briefly go over it. So we have June 1st, provide admittance or to medical, law, or seminary schools. So if you're going to be in a medical corps, or if you're going to go be a JAG guy, or if you're going to be a chaplain, then at that time, that's when you need to submit your packets to do those things. If you're going to go to like Ed Delay or something like that. 15 August is your cohort roster sent to brigades for review and correction. So that's just your school sending up to brigade who's going to be in your cohort, who's going to be in your fiscal year, who's going to be graduating, commissioning soon. 20 August, tab release to cadets. So at that time, you'll be able to take tab and take all those modules. We'll go over that shortly, but that's a pretty big deal now. 24th September, cadet and PMS comments, incident is CCIMM. Complete Ed Delay packets, do ADSOs entered and component branch selected. So at that time, you need to have almost everything submitted into CCIMM. Then you need to have your Ed Delay. If you're doing Ed Delay, you should have already sent at 1 June your admittance into your program. Also your ADSOs, if you want to ADSO for a branch, then you're going to put that in, as well as your component branch selection. So whether you want active, reserve, National Guard, and then your list of 17 branches from 1 to whatever. You got 1 October, the components release. So on October 1st, you're going to find out whether you went active, National Guard, or reserve. 2 to 3 October is the Ed Delay board. So there's going to be a board, put everybody stacked up against each other in the nation. They're going to rank you from 1 to whatever. So same thing with the Ed Delay board. They're going to do that same thing. And then basically, if your file is shit and you're a shitty person, you haven't done too good for yourself, grades, blah, 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 then you might not get Ed Delay, and you might not get to go to medical school, law school, or seminary. And if that's the case, then you're going to be branched like everybody else. Then 7 October, aviation qual cutoff. So that's going to be the people that are trying to go for aviation. That's when they're going to cut off that list as well. Then you also have the PMS counseling deadline. So at that time, your PMS should counsel you about branching, assessing, and about, they could make it short and simple. Or they could, talk to you a while about, what they expect of you as an officer, things like that. It could be a very in-depth counseling of how your performance has been and how you need to improve. Then 13 November is branching in Ed Delay results, so that's when you're going to get your branch, whether you're armor, infantry, aviation, whatever, and then whether you got Ed Delay or not. Then on December 1st, reserve graduates attain LOA or VHR, so if you're going to graduate in the reserves or National Guard, then you're going to contact different units and see if they have openings for whatever branch you want to go. So that's a positive of going reserve or National Guard, is if you can find a unit that wants, or that's in need of aviators or in need of infantrymen or whatever, then you can talk to them. You may have to interview with them, probably have to call them on the phone, email them, whatever, and then you're going to see if they'll let you in. I'm not doing that, so I don't know the whole process. 13 December is the last day to request changes, so if you don't like your branch, your component, whatever, then that's when you can request a change, or the last day you can request a change and send that up through your cadre, then it'll go up to brigade, then it'll go through cadet command. So if you want to do that, then you got to contact your HRA, your PMS, and the people in your program first. Then you have 15 March, which will be the deadline for reserve spring grads to attain LOA and VHR. So that'll be the deadline for when those reserve graduates, the people graduating and going reserve or National Guard, need those referrals and things like that. So this was the OML model for this fiscal 19. So this may change over the years. It has, percentages change, but this is basically what you're looking at as far as how you're being graded against everybody else. So this is a very important slide. Briefly, we'll kind of go over each part. Academic outcomes, which is 40%. So as you can see in the green, it says the points. So all those points added up will give you your OMS, your order of merit score, or your outcome metric score. You have your Accessions GPA cumulative through junior year. So your GPA from freshman, sophomore through junior year is what they're taking. However, if you are a graduate student, then they're just going to take your first year. You could play this out, and you could basically take all your easy classes up until your junior year, and then your harder classes your senior year, which is almost what ends up happening, but sometimes you may take harder classes. Junior year may not do so well. That's going to be 31 points, and essentially the way that works is it's not, if you have a 4.0, you get 31. If you have a 3.9, you get 30, 3.8, 29, and so on and so forth. So the more points you have, the more points, or the higher GPA, the more points it's worth. So if you have a 4.0, it would be 31, and then if you have like a 3.5, you may get 25, but then if you have a 3.0, it may bump you all the way down to 15. So it kind of takes more and more chunks out the lower your GPA goes. I was on the OPORD, has all this information as referenced on the first slide. I could not find any sort of chart that outlines that. So you're gonna have your language and cultural awareness. So this is if you have taken any language classes, or if you learned language. So this can be on your own, or it can be at your university, or it can be what you know. There's ways that they test for this. You can either take like a D-Lab, or you just have proof of the classes that you've taken in school, or you can, the Army accepts like Rosetta Stone and things of that nature. So basically, if you were to take, 4 years of German, you're gonna get a lot of points for that, versus if you take 1 year. But like I said, you can do it through your university. You can do it through, if like Spanish is your first language, you just have to take a D-Lab, which is a test that tests your proficiency in that language. Or you could do it through Rosetta Stone, or another route that the Army accepts. And then for that, you just need a certification from that program, from like Rosetta Stone. When you finish that, you'll get a certification, and then you'll submit that to CCIMM. You're gonna have your leadership outcomes. So this will be 45% of your OML. So what you're gonna have is your PMS rating and potential, and your PMS ranking and performance. So basically, if you have 100 people in your class, you're gonna be ranked in them. All right, so your ranking performance is based on that. So if you're ranked number 1, then you're gonna get 7 points. If you're ranked number 100, you're probably gonna get like 0 or 1, or I don't know. But it'll be split up, and that's how that works. For the PMS rating potential, that's all based on the PMS, how he thinks of you and how he's assessed you. So, and then when you're going through counseling, he'll go and tell you, he'll go through all this with you and say why he gave you your PMS rating of a 14 or of a 10 or of like a 1. Then you have advanced camp performance, and that'll be your platoon performance rating. So that's out of 15, and then you have the 1 point for a condo. When you go to advanced camp, you're gonna get ranked again as well. You're gonna get either an O for an outstanding, an E, a P, or a U. And so the top 10% will get an O. So when I went to advanced camp, I got an O. I was able to come out with 15 points. However, I did not get recondo. Recondo is a first time going everything, and you have to shoot expert and all these other variables. I missed it out on one thing, but yeah, you get an extra point for that. Pretty self-explanatory. You'll find out that number basically when you graduate advanced camp. Then you're gonna have your cadet training, extracurricular activities, which is 5 points, maturity and responsibility, which is 3 points. So for your cadet training and extracurricular activities, that's going to be whether like you're on Ranger Challenge, if you went to like Baton, if you're a part of any organizations or anything like that. So the way that's broken down is you get a certain amount of points for what you're in and how long you've been in it. If you're in like Ranger Challenge, the Ranger Challenge team for 4 years, then you're gonna get a good amount of points for that. And it's gonna have a list of all these things, whether it's like a debate team, a sporting team, whatever. Kind of a whole list, and then it's to say like if you're in it through 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, and then it's gonna give you a certain amount of points for that. The only way you can get a full 5 points is if you've been in like everything for 5 years. Then you have your maturity and responsibility, which is your employments, or if you're an SMP. So if you're a full-time member, a part-time member, how long you've been doing it, and it'll be the same thing. It'll be a list. It'll say full-time, part-time, then SMP. If you're in it for your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, if you're in for all of them, then you get more points. So it's not something where like I was a full-time employee for 1 year, a part-time employee for 1 year, an SMP member for 1 year, and then you get 3 points. That's not how that works. So you get parts of points. Same thing for the cadet training, extracurricular activities, you get parts of points. Finally, you have your physical outcomes. That'll be your APFTs, your most current fall and spring, and then your advanced camp. And then your athletics. So that'll be where your intramurals are, not at the cadet training and extracurricular activities. The extracurricular activities will be your air assaults and your specialty schools and airbornes and things like that. You have your APFT, so if you get 300, you're gonna get full points. So for me, I got 300s in all 3, so I got a full 12 points. But if you only got a 250, then that can knock you down to like 2 or 1 point, and you're missing out on a bunch of points. In the case of an OML, PT is super important, as well as all these factors, but it's really easy to lose those points. Varsity, intramural, and community team, same thing. What you've done, whether you did it freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and then you get parts points depending on how long you've been in each one and how many of what you've done. So basically, this is what Cadet Command has sent out to everybody, and this is what you'll see before you're taking the modules when you're taking tab. You know, you have your 4 cadets here who are trying to branch. It says what their rankings are. So James wants aviation first, engineering, and then cyber. James receives aviation because he put it as his #1 choice. Okay, boom, check. Sarah, she wants engineer first, but maybe her OML isn't as great, so she gets put at the bottom. Rich, he wants cyber, he gets cyber. Check. Laura, engineering, she ranks 2nd, so she's not so hot. All right, and so what they do here is they scratch off Sarah and move her to aviation. That's her 2nd because she was better matched up for aviation based on her tab. James got his 1st, Sarah got a 2nd, and then those other 2 got their 1st. So how do branching ratings, OML, and Bradsell impact assignments? All right, so Rich, so he didn't rank so well, but he branch ADSO'd, so he really wants aviation, so he branch ADSO'd. Then you have Sarah, she did not branch ADSO, and then you have Javier, who was a most preferred, who ranked well in OML. So the red dotted line, Sarah gets dropped, she doesn't meet it, but Rich does because he branch ADSO'd, so he is going to put in more time to get his branch. Then Javier got it because he ranked well enough. Write all your personal statements and all that stuff in your tab. And then you have your actual tab, which is going to have all the modules, and it's going to be a bunch of questions. So there's a bunch of different modules, and it's going to ask you things pretty simple, nothing too hard. There's one like GRE part. It takes a little bit of critical thinking, but then everything else is like would be like, what would you do? What would you rather do? Would you rather ski, or would you rather play games, or just shit like that? Shit that's simple, that's easy to answer, nothing too hard, just takes a little bit. So it's just kind of, it's almost like a personality test is what it is. Then you're going to do the CT, which is an evaluation of cadet strengths and weaknesses. PMS branching comments, so that's when the PMS is going to write statements on what he thinks you should get. You really want infantry, but your PMS says this guy should not do infantry, he's not cut out for whatever reason, then that's what he's going to put in. Additionally, there's interviews, so you can take interviews that will allow you a better chance of getting something. So when they're branching you, when they're assessing you, they'll have all your whole packet, they say blah, 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 and they might say, you know, this guy is okay, but then they're going to look at your interview, and if you did really well in your interview, and the person interviewer says, you know, I really recommend you to be this branch, then that might bump you up. So it can benefit you, but then if you do really bad, it could hurt you as well. All this information can be found in USAC Circular 601-20-1. That's updated as of 01 March 19. It's unclassified, so you can just look it up on Google and you'll find it. And it'll have all the information that you need. But essentially OML and Accessions is complicated, but if you do the right things, you can, you know, you'll be successful. If you focus on the right things in the past 4 years, then you'll be successful. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. And if you like this video, if you want me to elaborate more on certain topics or things that I did not touch, just send in the comments below.